Former CIA station chief Dan Hoffman is with me this morning. Trump's expected to present Arab and Muslim leaders with a post-war Gaza plan. I've got some questions. Any idea who's going to pay for this? Who's going to rebuild it? What can Gaza possibly look like when the war is over? Any answers?
That is definitely a big question to be asking right now, Stuart, and it's really Israel's question to answer. Israel is fighting an insurgency right now. They have decimated Hamas, but there are pockets of Hamas that remain. Of course, they're still holding hostages and deceased hostages. And Israel, while fighting this insurgency, which takes a lot of troops that I don't think they have, they've got to be thinking about a post-conflict reconstruction plan. But there's no indication right now that the Netanyahu government is doing that. I'm sure it's something that President Trump will be talking to Israel about, because this latest wave of countries recognizing a Palestinian state reflects, it's a political statement on Israel's conduct of the war, which has gone on almost 2 years.
Why do Western democracies support a Palestinian state which presumably would be run by Hamas? Why do they support a terrorist organization like this? Why?
Yeah, well, the first step needs to be eliminating Hamas before we consider a Palestinian state. But I think some of these countries are reflecting domestic political considerations. It's also an effort, particularly for France, to curry favor with the Arab world, Saudi Arabia specifically. But it's really diplomatic theater. It's not going to lead anywhere.
Is there any chance that the Palestinians in large numbers will be moved out of Gaza, taken someplace else? Any chance of that?
I suppose all sorts of options are on the table, but this is a really tricky Gordian knot, and it's going to be awfully difficult to unravel it. While Hamas remains at least at some level of strength in Gaza, that's the challenge for Israel. Hamas is deliberately embedding themselves with civilians. They're going to lose every single battle, but they are winning, arguably, the propaganda war, and that's creating diplomatic pressure on Israel and forcing Israel into some diplomatic isolation that we're seeing this week at the UN.
Russia has violated NATO airspace multiple times in recent weeks, first Poland, then in Estonia. To your knowledge, has there been any has America responded to any of these provocations?
No, I don't think we have responded yet. I think it's worth noting that back in 2015, when a Russia fighter jet violated Turkish airspace, the Turks set up an F-16 and shot it down, and there were no more violations. I think Vladimir Putin is probing us tactically to see how we would respond. Strategically, what he wants to demonstrate is that NATO and the United States is unable to deter Russian military action in Eastern Europe. Just today, Oslo and Copenhagen had to close their airports because of drone sightings, presumably from Russia, but we're waiting on further details of that. So I think Putin wants to try to make it clear that the United States can't project power in Eastern Europe, and he wants to deflate the Ukrainians' hopes for the United States stepping in to help defend them by demonstrating this sort of Potemkin village effort that Russia can launch these drones and military aircraft over NATO airspace and do it with impunity.
Do you think it's likely that a NATO jet would shoot down a Russian jet?
Well, Turkey has done it before, as I mentioned, and I think that right now I'm sure there are behind-the-scenes back-channel discussions between NATO and Russia, and perhaps those warnings are being given to the Kremlin that if this continues to happen, there will be military action in response.
Okay. Thanks very much for joining us, Dan. We always appreciate it, and we hope to see you again soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stuart. Have a good day.